Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. It is in fact my birthday, which is a bittersweet experience when you're over 50. Now I see people living to 80, 90, 100. So I take some succor from that. Coming to Africa, The Economist leads with Africa's growing cities are inspiring protest and opposition parties. Mr. Wine is part of a broader trend in which upstart politicians with support among the urban poor are rattling governments. They include Kenya's main opposition leader Raila Odinga, Nelson Chamisa of Zimbabwe's Movement for Democratic Change. In South Africa, Julius Malema of the Economic Freedom Fighters has been gaining ground by promising to seize white-owned land. The rise of urban discontent in young opposition leaders partly reflects a youth bulge. The median age in Africa is 19 and a half, whereas its leaders' average age is 62. It also arises from Africa's idiosyncratic urbanization, whereby cities are growing fast, but opportunities in them are not. In 1960, 15% of Africans lived in cities, about the same as in Europe in the 1600s. Today, the share is 38%. By 2030, it will surpass 50%. Incumbents are trying more subtle ways to quell urban unrest. In Mozambique, cities run by opposition parties are starved of public funds. In Botswana, the ruling party has appointed extra unelected councillors to cities where the opposition has polled well. In October, Mr. Museveni toured downtown Kampala, promising to shower traders' associations with cash. Mechanics at Kiseka Market, an unruly hub for spare parts, waxed dutifully. "He's the best president in the world," gushed one man in a ruling party t-shirt. Then he leaned closer, whispering, "Actually, we hate Museveni. We love Bobby Wine." That took me back to something I wrote in 2014, Ouagadougou's signal to sub-Saharan Africa. And I was saying then what's clear is that a very young, very informed, very connected African youth demographic, which many characterize as a demographic dividend, but for beautiful Blaze turned into a demographic terminator, is set to alter the existing equilibrium between the rulers and the subjects, and a rebalancing has begun. We always asked what's the next China after China. Well, appropriately, China figured it out. It's Africa, so said Adesina of the African Development Bank. He also said, which continent will have consumer and business expenditures that reach $5.6 trillion in just 7 short years? Don't think far, think Africa, he said. New tax evokes memories of 2008 crisis in Zimbabwe. Cube's tax triggered inflation as businesses, both formal and informal, insisted on cash when there isn't any. The result, in a country that abandoned its own currency in favor of the greenback in 2009, is that electronic dollars trade at a discount to hard cash. The government's so-called bond notes, which it insists have the same value as dollars, are worth even less. According to the Zimbabwe Index, a Twitter account that tracks the exchange rate, 3.25 bond notes are needed to buy $1 in cash on the black market, while a vendor will insist on $3.35 in electronic dollars for every paper unit. Official inflation at 5.4% is accelerating at its fastest pace in 8 years. The market has said that these currencies aren't at par, and I don't want to argue with the market, Cube said in a speech in London last month, when he called bond notes an experiment that will have to be scrapped at some stage. There is debilitating distrust in the government and the country's financial system, G.A. van der Linde, an economist at NKC African Economics in Paarl, South Africa, said. Dollar hoarding and panic buying are likely to persist as long as quasi-currency instruments continue to lose value against the dollar. Mnangagwa's decisions to trim the cabinet and pick a respected finance minister are good signs. Van der Linde isn't optimistic that Cube can engineer a quick turnaround. The odds are stacked against him, that's for sure. And then Bloomberg's talking about banks fearing hyperinflation redux in plea for Zimbabwe reforms. The above reforms will be associated with significant costs of adjustment, and in particular the pain of adjustment, with potential for social unrest unless delicately and comprehensively addressed, the BAS said. While it's still far from an estimated 500 billion percent it reached in 2009, Zimbabwe's inflation rate has more than doubled to 5.4% since Robert Mugabe was toppled as president a year ago. Cube said on Thursday price growth accelerated even further last month. Zimbabwe's budget deficit has ballooned after spending exceeds target. Deficit was projected at this point, January through September, to be at $715.4 million, but it's at $2.5 billion. White South Africans are barred from government jobs website, that's via Zero Hedge. However, the whites, who picked up on this theme of deaths in the farms have been quiet of late. South African all-share down 9.14% this year. Dollar versus rand, I told you it was looking expensive below 14. It's now at 14.1785. Egyptian pound at 17.9065. Nigeria plans a London roadshow ahead of a $2.8 billion Eurobond sale. Nigerian all shares down 15.73% year to date. AFDB nears approval of $600 million loan package for Ghana's cocoa bond. Adesina, the last time the price of cocoa collapsed, Ghana lost $1 billion. Ivory Coast lost over $1 billion. We must be smarter than that. If you have to constantly sell your beans, you don't control anything. You just dispose of them. You're essentially a market price taker. Once the Ghana deal is approved, he said the bank would move on to separate proposals submitted by Ivory Coast. The Ghana Stock Exchange is up 4.91% this year. Biggest African bond fund snaps up MTN and gains from local debt. It now appears to be headed for an amicable resolution. We took advantage of the uncertainty to increase our holdings to just over 5% of the fund at about 7% yields. Le Clinique Chinois, Chinese medicine, is on the rise in Africa. It's a revolution. Many people are curious, but I'm still skeptical, says Ibrahim C., who says his mother was cured of leg pain with